I didn't want to do it at first, and they'd been after me to do one for about 2 years. And
He didn't want to do it at first. For nearly 2 years, people had been pushing Ricky Nelson to put on a comeback show. He finally gave in. Well, he thought, there's going to be 22,000 people there. Maybe we can try out some new songs. But when the day came, they didn't play anything new. Just old hits. And the crowd? They just stared. Felt strange. That was about 6 months before Ricky Nelson died in a fiery plane crash on December 31st, 1985. In the days that followed, headlines broke across the country. Rock star dead. Tragic end to an icon. But quietly, a second story began to unfold, one even more shocking. Everyone believed Ricky was broke. His messy divorce had cost him nearly $1 million. He owed money everywhere. There were rumors his children would inherit nothing but debt. But then, his brother uncovered something buried in a drawer, a will. And when lawyers got involved, they found a paper trail so twisted it shocked even them. Ricky had been robbed. For decades. And the truth didn't just change history, it made his children millionaires except for one. One child got nothing. And the reason why will leave you stunned. Ricky Nelson was born on May 8, 1940 in Teaneck, New Jersey, but he wasn't just another kid on the block. His father, Ozzie Nelson, was a big band leader. His mother, Harriet Hilliard, was already a Hollywood actress. Fame didn't knock on Ricky's door, it raised him. By the time Ricky was still in diapers, his parents' radio show, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, was one of America's most beloved family programs. Instead of playgrounds and privacy, Ricky's childhood was spent in sound stages and studios. Vacations turned into episodes. Family dinners doubled as rehearsals. Nothing was off the record, not even bedtime. In 1949, at just 8 years old, Ricky and his older brother David joined the radio show as themselves. While other boys were trading baseball cards, Ricky was learning scripts, memorizing lines, and cashing paychecks. He was a star before he ever lost his baby teeth. But it came at a cost. There were no schoolyard games, no real friendships. Ricky's world was artificial. A spotlight was his playground. The family moved to Los Angeles in 1941, settling into a Cape Cod-style house that became iconic. Fans drove by just to snap a photo. But inside, that house was more like a production studio than a home. Everything and everyone was part of the brand. Ozzie ran a tight ship. Ricky and David weren't just kids. They were cast members. Behind the smile, though, Ricky was struggling. He suffered from severe asthma, sometimes so bad he couldn't walk across a room without gasping for air. While other kids played outside, Ricky stayed indoors, reading, listening to music, and dreaming. That quiet, thoughtful side, born out of isolation, became a part of his charm. On screen, he was composed, even magnetic. But underneath it was a boy learning to survive. By 1957, the quiet kid was about to shake the world. Ricky was 17 when he performed Fats Domino's I'm Walkin' Live on the family's TV show. It was electric. Girls across the country swooned. The single sold over 1 million copies. Overnight, Ricky wasn't just a TV star. He was a rock sensation. But off-camera, things were already spiraling. Fast cars. Parties. Girls. Ricky was polite in interviews but wild behind the scenes. His parents didn't like it. They tried to keep him on a short leash. Even though he was earning $500 a week, Ozzie controlled every penny. Ricky got a small allowance, just enough to keep him dependent. But the fame kept growing. His first single with Imperial Records, Bebop Baby, racked up over 750,000 advance orders before it was even released. His debut album Ricky topped the charts in 1957, making him the youngest artist at the time to do so. He wasn't just a teen idol. He was a business. And business was booming. Ozzie, the mastermind behind the family empire, made sure Ricky's songs were featured at the end of each episode of their show. 10 million people tuned in weekly, a built-in marketing machine. When Ricky sang "I'm Walkin' on Air," it jumped straight to the top 5. That formula worked again and again. In August 1958, Ricky made history. "Poor Little Fool" became the first song ever to hit #1 on the newly launched Billboard Hot 100 chart. It had been written by a 15-year-old girl named Sharon Shealy. Ricky didn't even want to record it, but the label ignored him and released it anyway. It skyrocketed, proving Ricky's voice had power even when he didn't. Between 1957 and 1962, Ricky landed 20 songs in the top 40. Only Elvis did better. But Ricky's real life was messier than his chart success. He was falling in love and falling apart. One of his earliest intense relationships was with model and actress Marian Gaba. Chemistry was real. He gave her a ring engraved to marry and love Rick. She thought it meant forever. He didn't. Soon after, he was romantically involved with singer Lori Collins. Together, they started writing music. On TV, Ricky was the picture of innocence. Off-screen, he was chasing freedom, one mistake at a time. Then came Chris Harmon, daughter of football legend Tom Harmon, sister to actor Mark Harmon, and a Hollywood beauty. They met in 1961. By 1963, Chris was pregnant. The wedding was rushed, heavily influenced by her strict Catholic family. Ricky had to convert, take religious classes, and promise to raise their kids Catholic. It wasn't love. It was expectation. They looked perfect on paper. But behind the curtain, their marriage was falling apart. Chris wanted a lavish lifestyle. Rick tried to keep up, homes, designer clothes, exotic trips, but the money wasn't endless. He kept touring to pay the bills. She wanted him home. It was a recipe for disaster. By the late 70s, Ricky was drowning financially. When the marriage finally crumbled, the divorce cost him over $1 million. It nearly destroyed him. But he never stopped fighting. Frustrated with the studio musicians who looked down on rock and roll, Ricky built his own band from scratch, with young talent who respected his vision. One of them? A guitarist named James Burton, who would later become a legend. This gave Ricky creative control, but it also drained his finances even more. Till he pushed forward. Until 1964, when the Beatles arrived in America. The British invasion hit like a storm. Within months, the entire music scene had changed. Even Elvis struggled. Ricky was no exception. His hit "For You" barely cracked the top 40. Suddenly, the teen idol was yesterday's news. Till he kept performing. Till he kept creating. But the spotlight faded. Then, in 1985, came the crash. Ricky, his fiancée, and 6 others died when their plane went down in Texas. The world mourned. But behind closed doors, a darker story emerged. Everyone thought Ricky died broke. His assets were gone. The IRS was circling. His children feared there would be nothing left. Lawyers dug deeper and discovered the real shocker. Record labels had been skimming from Ricky's royalties for decades. Once the lawsuits began, the numbers stunned everyone. The settlements were so massive that the judge himself was speechless. Ricky's 4 children became millionaires overnight. But one son got nothing. Why? Because his mother had allegedly manipulated the will, cutting him out completely. In death, just like in life, Ricky Nelson's story was a mix of glory and heartbreak. Tale of fame, control, rebellion, and resilience. He gave his childhood to the spotlight. He gave his youth to the charts. And in the end, the world remembered his music, but few knew the cost of making it. Now the truth is out. And it's louder than ever.